Lieutenant Commander Anya Sharma was a study in paradox. Her petite frame and calm, almost serene demeanor belied the razor-sharp mind and unyielding resolve of an Air Force combat controller. Attached to a Navy SEAL team, she was the team's eyes and ears, the vital link to the sky. Her specialty was calling in precision airstrikes and artillery, a job that required a cold, clinical focus under the most extreme pressure. She was on the ground with men who were legends in their own right, and she had earned her place beside them, not with physical brawn, but with an almost supernatural ability to remain calm amidst chaos. Their current mission was a textbook extraction in the remote, rugged mountains of an unnamed country. The target, a high-value asset, had been successfully secured. The team of 6 was moving to their extraction point, a small, flat clearing 3 miles away. The terrain was unforgiving, a jagged landscape of loose rock, narrow gullies, and sparse thorny scrub. The air was thin and hot, a heavy blanket that made every breath a conscious effort. The SEALs were a well-oiled machine. Anya was positioned in the middle of the stack, her radio operator's pack heavy on her back, her carbine held at the ready. Leading the way was Senior Chief Marcus Cobrathorn, a man whose quiet intensity was as famous as his skill. Bringing up the rear was Chief Petty Officer Evan Ghost Riley, a master of stealth and situational awareness. Their movements were a silent symphony of practiced efficiency. The ambush was not a surprise, but it was executed with brutal precision. A crack echoed through the canyon, followed by the distinctive, high-pitched whistle of a sniper round. Cobra, a man who had survived more gunfights than he could count, crumpled instantly. A second, third, and fourth shot followed in quick succession, each one striking a member of the team. The air filled with the deafening roar of automatic rifle fire. Anya felt a searing, hot poker stab into her left shoulder, then another in her side. A third tore through her thigh, and a fourth grazed her helmet, sending a blinding flash of white and a ringing sound through her skull. She fell hard, her body a tangled mess of pain and gear. The world seemed to slow down, the sound of gunfire muffled by the ringing in her ears. She fought to stay conscious, her training a powerful anchor in the rising sea of shock. Anya pressed her hand to her side, feeling the warm, sticky flow of blood. The pain was an electric current, shocking every nerve ending. She forced herself to think, to analyze. She could see Ghost in her peripheral vision, also down, a large splotch of crimson blossoming on his chest. The other team members were scattered, returning fire from behind whatever cover they could find. They were pinned down, out of position, and taking heavy casualties. Her comms were dead. The last round that had hit her helmet had also hit her radio antenna, a sparking, useless piece of metal. This was a critical problem. Without her, they were blind. They could not call for close air support, could not request an artillery strike, and could not coordinate an extraction. The situation was dire. The enemy was moving to flank them, their chattering gunfire drawing closer. The surviving team members were running low on ammunition, their suppressive fire becoming less frequent. Anya knew that if they did not move, they would be overrun, and she knew that she was their only hope. Anya bit down on her lip, a wave of nausea washing over her as she pushed herself up. The pain was immense, a firestorm of agony. She leaned against a large boulder, her head swimming. She could not feel her left arm below the elbow, but she could still move it, a slow and agonizing process. She looked at Cobra and Ghost. Both men were alive, but barely. Cobra was bleeding heavily from his chest, his breathing shallow and rattling. Ghost was unconscious, a gaping wound in his side. She knew she had to get them out. The 3 miles to the extraction point seemed an insurmountable distance. A journey that would be impossible for an uninjured person, let alone a woman with 4 bullet wounds. But Anya did not allow the thought of impossibility to take hold. She had a job to do. First, she had to get a working radio. She crawled to her pack, dragging her useless left leg behind her, a grim parody of a wounded soldier. The pack was heavy, a dead weight on her shoulders, but she managed to get it off. She rummaged through the contents, her fingers fumbling with the buckles and straps. She located a smaller, backup radio, a simple handheld device with a short antenna. It was not as powerful as her main radio, but it was their only chance. She had to make a plan. The other members of the team, she knew, would either fight to the death or manage to retreat. She was not a fighter. She was a controller. Her mission was to protect the men she served with, and that is what she would do. She would get Cobra and Ghost to safety. She moved to Cobra first. The man was a giant, a wall of muscle and bone. She was small, but her will was a force of nature. She tore a piece of her shirt and pressed it to his wound, tying it tightly with a length of paracord. She administered morphine to both men, hoping it would keep them from going into shock. The next part was the hardest. She had to move them. She could not carry them both at once, so she decided to move them in stages, a painful, inch-binge process. She first dragged Ghost, his limp body a dead weight against her. She moved him 50 feet, behind a larger boulder, before returning for Cobra. Her body screamed in protest. Every movement a fresh assault on her wounded frame. Her left leg felt like it was on fire, but she pushed through the pain, focusing on the simple, singular goal of moving forward. The enemy fire was relentless. Anya was exposed, a vulnerable target in the open, but her luck held. They were so focused on the other members of the team that they did not notice her. She was a ghost, a phantom moving through the rocks, dragging her to charges to safety. After what seemed like an eternity, she had moved both men to the shelter of the large boulder. They were in relative safety for the moment, but they were still a long way from the extraction point. And the enemy was getting closer. She could hear them, their shouts, and the clicking of their weapons. They were hunting them. Anya pulled out the backup radio. She extended the antenna and began her desperate Hail Mary attempt to contact anyone, anything. The static was a deafening roar, a wall of white noise that made it impossible to hear anything. She tried again, her voice a strained whisper. "This is Controller Ghost 99er, requesting immediate artillery support. My coordinates are..." She spoke into the radio, the numbers coming from her memory, a map of the area etched into her mind. She repeated the call, her voice raw and hoarse. Nothing, just the static. She could hear the enemy closing in. She had to move. She took a deep breath, the air burning her lungs. She looked at the two men, their faces pale and drawn. She could not give up. She would not. She had to get them out. She fashioned a makeshift harness out of her webbing and ropes. It was a crude but effective way to drag both men at once. She tied Ghost to Cobra, creating a single heavy load. She then placed the harness over her shoulders, the weight of the two men a crushing burden on her already injured body. She began to move, the weight of the two men a constant grinding force. She was in constant motion, a slow, deliberate march through the treacherous terrain. She dragged them over loose rocks, across small streams, and up steep inclines. The pain was a physical presence, a monster that clawed at her from the inside, but she did not stop. She could not stop. Every step was a victory, a testament to her unbreakable will. She continued to call on the radio, her voice a desperate, rhythmic chant in the silence of the mountains. "This is Controller Ghost 99er, requesting immediate artillery support. My coordinates are..." The static was her only response. The sun was beginning to set, painting the sky in hues of orange and purple. The temperature was dropping, and a cold chill was beginning to set in. She knew that if they were caught out here in the cold, their chances of survival would plummet. She was exhausted, her body screaming for rest. Her wounds were bleeding again, the bandages she had applied earlier soaked through with crimson. She could feel herself fading, the world becoming a blur of pain and exhaustion. Just as she was about to give up, she heard a faint sound on the radio, a voice barely audible through the static. "Ghost 99er, this is High Point. We read you. The coordinates are a bit garbled. Repeat." Anya's heart leaped in her chest. She had a lifeline. She repeated her coordinates, her voice cracking with emotion. "High Point, we have a fix on you." "What is your request?" the voice asked. "We are under fire," Anya said, to wounded, one unconscious. "Requesting immediate artillery support on my back trail. I am moving, so I need you to walk the fire with me. My current coordinates are..." She gave her current position and her intended direction of travel. "Roger that. Ghost 99er, be advised, fire is coming in hot. You need to keep moving." "Repeat, you need to keep moving," the voice said. Anya did not need to be told twice. She began to move again. The weight of the two men a familiar burden. She could hear the distinct sound of the artillery shells leaving their tubes, a low, rumbling sound that was a symphony to her ears. The shells came down a few hundred meters behind her, their explosions shaking the ground. She felt the vibrations in her very bones, a powerful primal force that both terrified and invigorated her. She continued her march, a slow, agonizing trek through the darkness. The artillery strikes followed her, a protective wall of fire that kept the enemy at bay. She was a woman on a mission, a one-woman army, carrying the wounded and calling in the thunder. The journey was a blur of pain and determination. She lost all sense of time, her only focus on the next step, and the next, and the next. She was a machine, a programmed automaton, moving toward a destination that seemed to be an illusion. But then she saw it, the clearing, the extraction point. A small, flat patch of ground in the middle of a vast, unforgiving landscape. She had made it. She collapsed to her knees, the harness falling away from her shoulders. She was at the end of her rope, her body giving up on her. She reached for the radio, her hand shaking. "High Point, this is Ghost 9er. We are at the extraction point, requesting immediate pickup. 2 wounded, 1 unconscious," she said, her voice a faint whisper. "Roger that, Ghost 9er. We see you." "Helo is inbound, ETA 5 minutes," the voice said. Anya closed her eyes, a wave of relief washing over her. She had done it. She had saved them. She had carried them 3 miles, across a treacherous landscape, and had called in artillery to protect them. She was a ghost, a phantom, a whisper in the night, but she was a hero. The sound of the helicopter blades was a welcome, deafening roar. The bird landed, its rotor wash a powerful wind that kicked up dust and debris. The door gunners jumped out, their faces a mixture of relief and shock. They saw the 2 men, their bodies covered in blood and dust, and Anya, her face pale, her body a bloody mess. They helped her get the 2 men on the helicopter. She was the last to go on board, her body giving up on her completely. She fell into the arms of a medic, her vision fading to black. She had done her job. She had saved her team. She was a legend. She awoke in a hospital bed, the scent of antiseptic filling her nostrils. Her body was a patchwork of bandages and stitches, her wounds clean and healing. She felt weak, but alive. A nurse entered the room, a warm smile on her face. "You are a miracle, Lieutenant Commander Sharma," the nurse said. "We did not think you would make it." Anya did not say anything. She just smiled. She knew what she had done. She knew the cost. But she also knew that she would do it again, in a heartbeat, for the men she served with. She was a combat controller, a protector, a hero. The door opened and a familiar face entered the room. It was Cobra, his body a collection of casts and bandages, but his eyes full of life. He smiled at her, a rare and genuine smile. "I heard you got shot 4 times, and then you carried me in Ghost 3 miles while calling in artillery," he said. "I think you were a hero." Anya smiled back at him, a tear rolling down her cheek. She was not a hero. She was a soldier. She was a combat controller. She was a protector. And she had done her job.